O soul, intruder in nature's ignorance, armed traveler to the unseen supernal heights, thy spirit's fate is a battle and ceaseless march against invisible opponent powers, a passage from matter into timeless self.
Well, Sri Aurobindo does speak a lot about these opponent powers. That the moment one begins seeking, or thy fate is a long sacrifice, he says, and the secret self opens up and becomes even one with the indwelling God, even then, thy fate is a battle. Thy spirit's fate is a battle and ceaseless march against these invisible opponent powers. And these are very powerful beings. And notice he capitalizes the word powers. But it is a passage, therefore, from matter into timeless self. So we've gone over matter many times, and I won't continue that, but we have to go to the next page now. Okay?
Adventurer through blind, unforeseeing time, a forced advance through a long line of lives, it pushes its spearhead through the centuries.
Very good, much better, very much better. So basically, he's telling us, first of all, unforeseeing time. Unforeseeing time is not prescient, not able to see in advance. That's what it really means. It doesn't mean not seeing at all, but
Mhm,
it means not knowing or aware of or even seeing in advance.
mhm,
So that's the unforeseen time. And a forced advance is a march of an army or a company. And these are marches that are longer than soldiers are accustomed to. And they're at a faster pace than usual because they have a particular place in mind and they want to get there as quickly as possible. It's usually done under emergency conditions. And that's why this is such an important line, that forced advance, that going faster than usual through a long line of lives, through all our births and deaths. The soul pushes its spearhead through the centuries. And the spearhead here, Sanjana, really is a little different again. It has that military meaning again. It's the leading force in a military thrust, the driving force in a given action. So those two are united. So, got it? We can continue.
yes. Across the dust and mire of the earthly plain, on many guarded lines and dangerous fronts, in dire assaults, in wounded, slow retreats, holding the ideals ringed and battered fort, of fighting against odds in lonely posts, or camped in night around the bivouac's fires, awaiting the tardy trumpets of the dawn, in hunger and in plenty and in pain, through peril and through triumph and through fall, through life's green lanes and over her desert sands, up the bald moor, along the sunlit ridge, in serried columns with a straggling rear, led by its nomad vanguard's signal fires, marches the army of the way lost God.
Wow. So you see, this is all connected to battle.
Mhm.
So the last line we have the army.
Yes.
Then above that we have the vanguard's single signal fires. Then we have the serried columns with a straggling rear.
What is
All
serried columns?
uh, fixed in certain lines, pressed, crowded together in rows, as troops would be pressed together in rows. I'll go through
Yes.
everything though. You see, camped, bivouac, all of these
Yes.
things, posts, lonely posts. I mean, it's
Mhm.
extraordinary what battered fort,
Mm.
wounded, slow retreats, dire assaults, all military here. Guarded
Yes.
lines, dangerous fronts, spearhead. I'll go through everything because we have to
Mhm.
understand this. So, we'll take it from the beginning. Um, we did the unforeseen time. We did the forced advance, and that's military. It pushes
Across
its
the
spearhead through the centuries. The spearhead's a driving force. And then across the dust and mire of the earthly plane. So this mire of the earthly plane is muddy ground, very difficult for an army to go through, slimy soil or mud. Now, he says, on many guarded lines here are protected lines, defended lines, and dangerous fronts. Now, this idea of the front is very different from many others because it's the forward line of a combat force. So that's the front here. The forward line is the front. In dire assaults, dire are, of course, urgent, desperate assaults, assaults or invasions or violent attacks. In wounded, slow retreats, well, when an army is forced or strategically withdraws before an enemy, it's called a retreat, not the retreats that we're accustomed to, but it's a place of strategic withdrawal with a plan to um, meet the enemy to this army's advantage. Holding the ideals ringed and battered fort. Wow. So we have the battered fort here. Ringed is, of course, uh, you know, around, and battered is damaged by blows. And the fort is the fortified place or position, stationed with troops. Then he says, or fighting against odds in lonely posts. And a post is a specific position that's taken at a military base. So someone is assigned to this post. You guard this area, you guard that area.
Mhm.
Or camped in night around the bivouac's fires. The bivouac is the temporary camp with tents, that the soldiers use. They're often unprotected from an enemy, awaiting the tardy trumpets of the dawn. Yes, they don't want to be caught at night in these dangerous situations, for sure. And now he's going to tell us where they're going in hunger and in plenty and in pain, through peril and through triumph and through fall, through life's green lanes and over her desert sands, up the bald moor, along the sunlit ridge, in serried columns with a straggling rear. Well, you see this straggling rear, we talked about serried, pressed together, especially in rows. But straggling is the part of the back of this force that is falling or straying beyond the main force. So these serried columns are in the front. They're the troops that are in the front. He's already spoken about that. And the straggling rear are the ones who are weaker or just exhausted and falling behind. So these are so incredible. Led by its nomad vanguard signal fires. Well, the vanguard is the foremost position in an army advancing into battle. So it's led by its nomad. Now, nomad is sort of roaming about or wandering here, but moving about from place to place, like nomads do. So the signal fires, the indicators that indicate action, direction, command. And we know that even today they send up a shot to get the attention of a helicopter or plane to save people in danger. Now marches the army of the way-lost God. Now this is also so incredible because way-lost is a word coined by Sri Aurobindo. But he's using it as an adjective. It's a way-lost God. It means someone who has lost his way. So marches the army of the way-lost God. Are you okay with this, or would you like to go through it one more time? Your decision.
We can continue if that's okay.
Sure. Okay.
Then late the joy ineffable is felt. Then he remembers his forgotten self. He has refound the skies from which he fell.
So when that ineffable, that indescribable or unutterable feeling of joy is felt, but it's late. I mean, mankind has to go through so much before he can feel that ineffable joy. But once he does, then he remembers his forgotten self. He remembers his soul. And therefore he has refound the skies from which he fell, from which he descended into the human form. Okay?
At length his front's indomitable line forces the last passes of the ignorance, advancing beyond nature's last known bounds. Re, uh, how do I pronounce that?
Reconnoitering. Reconnoitering.
Reconnoitring, reconnoitring the formidable unknown beyond the landmarks of things visible. It mounts through a miraculous upper air till climbing the mute summit of the world, he stands upon the splendor peaks of God.
So this is the human being who has um, he has realized himself, and he has refound the skies from which he fell. And he remembers his forgotten self because he has been through so much in this earthly plane. So at length means after a time, his front's indomitable line. Indomitable means incapable of being overcome, unconquerable, forces the last passes of the ignorance. You can see how this is still somewhat allied to this military thing that Sri Aurobindo has just
Mhm.
put us through.
Yes.
And as a result, he's advancing beyond nature's last known bounds. So, nature, of course, here is the creatrix, the divine creatrix, but working through what seems to us basic ignorance. Because the divine creatrix has no ignorance, but as she descends from the heights, she has to compress or even reduce her power to advance, to create in this world, in this earth. And therefore, we will see that reconnoitering means exploring, basically, re exploring the formidable unknown. Formidable always means something of huge size or something that arouses fear or dread. So it's a powerful force, this formidable unknown. And it's reconnoitering beyond the landmarks of visible things. It mounts through a miraculous upper air, till climbing the mute summit of the world, the silent summit of the world, he stands upon the splendor peaks of God. And now we're going to get into Satyavan.
In vain thou mourn'st that Satyavan must die. His death is a beginning of greater life. Death is the spirit's opportunity.
So quite a bit to go through here. Let's look a little bit about Satyavan first. He is the soul that is carrying the divine truth of being within him. But having taken birth into a human body means that he has descended into this grip of death and ignorance. But he's still the soul of the world, called Satyavan. And he is man's representative in the house of God. He's the mate of wisdom, and she is the spouse, or he is also the spouse of light. You see, the eternal bridegroom of the eternal bride. So beautiful. His death is a beginning of greater life, and death is the spirit's opportunity. So Sri Aurobindo writes in one of his letters on yoga, for the spiritual seeker, death is only a passage from one form of life to another, and none is dead, but only departed. And he says also, death has no separate existence by itself. It is only a result of the principle of decay in the body. But that doesn't apply here to Satyavan, who is the soul. So we need not go into that. These are also letters on yoga. That the body is not ready, and therefore death is kind to take us to our resting place and allow us to prepare for the next birth. So maybe you can continue a little bit more.
A vast intention has brought two souls close, and love and death conspire towards one great end. For
This
out
vast intention is known as the Holocaust of the divine.
Mhm.
And yet it's the Holocaust of two souls, Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So, therefore, love and death in Satyavan and Savitri's life conspire. In other words, they work together towards one great end. And we'll continue a little more, and then you can read the whole thing.
For out of danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come. Time's unforeseen event, God's secret plan.
Yes, in book one we see, um, for man shall not know the coming till its hour, and belief shall be not till the work is done. So here we see that for out of danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come. The pain that they are going through is not the pain that the hammer of the gods has to work on us. The pain is the transformation that the heaven bliss shall come. And Sri Aurobindo says to Narad, I have faced 100 times the pain that you have. What a thing to know that Sri Aurobindo has faced more than 100 times what any human being could know. And so this unforeseen event of time, this secret plan of God, is the supramental and its descent into the earth. So we, and I'm speaking now again for myself, but we must believe fully in the victory of the divine over the darkness. Yes, we can do things to alleviate some of the deep state or with other cabals' interests, but basically, all we can do is join in a collective harmony and prayer. We don't have the power over these beings or over these forces, but we do get, I would almost say, vibhutis. And I think that we have them working with us today. Elon Musk, perhaps Trump in some ways, but there are others working, and we're having an event on the 28th of this month by Mark Auburn, who has had 10,000 experiences. Extraordinary. And I had to proofread his entire book, which will be published in India in English this month, before his talk. So we see that out of danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come. And this great event that's unforeseen, this great event in time, not in the timeless, in earth time. And that is God's secret plan, the descent of the supermind. So, can you read from the beginning for us?
Yes. O soul, intruder in nature's ignorance, armed traveler to the unseen supernal heights, thy spirit's fate is a battle and ceaseless march against invisible opponent powers, a passage from matter into timeless self. Adventurer through blind, unforeseeing time, a forced advance through a long line of lives. It pushes its spearhead through the centuries, across the dust and mire of the earthly plain, on many guarded lines and dangerous fronts, in dire assaults, in wounded slow retreats, holding the ideals ringed and battered fought, or fighting against odds in lonely posts, or camped in night around the bivouac's fires, awaiting the tardy trumpets of the dawn. In hunger and in plenty and in pain, through peril and through triumph and through fall, through life's green lanes and over her desert sands, up the bald moor along the sunlit ridge, in serried columns with a straggling rear, led by its nomad vanguard's signal fires, marches the army of the way-lost god. Then late the joy ineffable is felt. Then he remembers his forgotten self. He has refound the skies from which he fell. At length his front's indomitable line forces the last passes of the ignorance, advancing beyond nature's last known bounds, reconnoitering the formidable unknown. Beyond the landmarks of things visible, it mounts through a miraculous upper air, till climbing the mute summit of the world, he stands upon the splendor peaks of God. In vain thou mourn'st that Satyavan must die. His death is the beginning of greater life. Death is the spirit's opportunity. A vast intention has brought two souls close, and love and death conspire towards one great end. For out of danger and pain, heaven bliss shall come. Time's unforeseen event, God's secret plan.
Very good, but I want to check one pronunciation, and I'm going
Yes.
to ask for the English. Uh, yeah, it's formidable.
Formidable. Okay.
Yes, I think you pronounced it properly, right? Formidable.
Yes, that's how I pronounce formidable.
Yes, not formidable, but formidable.
No, formidable. Yes.
Very, very good. So we're fine. And very, very good. I got Collins' English dictionary, and the US, it's formidable, but UK is formidable. See you
All
next
right.
week.
Thank you. See you
Wonderful.
next week.
You're welcome.
Namaste.
Namaste.